Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Mobile, Alabama, parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
I'm great, Scott. How are you today?
Well, Bradley, I'm not happy. My wife and I, on a lark, decided to get on the Delta flight in Huntsville. We now have nonstop flights to New York.
That's nice.
And we go up there, and I go to see Aaron Gordon, and he ain't around.
Was it a Jewish holiday?
I think
it was.
to give him some grace, I believe his mother was in the hospital. I think
that's what it was.
She's been a little under the weather and not doing real well, and she was at the hospital that day. So I do give him grace, and that wasn't the only reason we went. I was kidding about that, but I did have a romantic notion of he and I getting together for coffee or dinner or something like that, and it just didn't work out. But
Aaron, to Cat's Deli and getting you a pastrami sandwich.
Yeah, man, I love pastrami sandwiches. So that was romantically thought of, and it didn't get to happen. But we went up there. I bought 2 tickets to the Dave Portnoy Pizza Fest.
Nice.
Up in right off of the coast there. No, it was in Randall Park Island, which is a 10-minute ferry ride from Manhattan. And we did some damn pizza eating. I'll tell you that.
Did you get to see Dave?
Did not see Dave. Met a couple. Got to talk to Tommy Pope and his Chris O'Connor, who were both on the show Tires.
Okay.
That's
right. Oh, so those really were those guys.
Yeah,
I thought you were making a joke.
They were at one point for a year or two, I believe. They were roommates with Shane Gillis. You know, Shane's blown up in the world of comedy and on SNL and all this other stuff. And I was just so happy for them. I listened. They have a podcast called Stuff Island, and it's a pretty racy podcast, but they just bring on comedians, buddies of theirs, and sometimes it's just the two of them, like this podcast is with you and I. It's a great podcast, though. They do a good job, but I'm so happy for them. You know, they languished in obscurity for 10, 15 years as comedians, and with Shane's success, there's about 5 or 6 guys in the comedy world that are coattailing him, and to his credit, he's bringing them with him. So Chris O'Connor is on the show Tires on Netflix, which is, by all accounts, been a big hit. I don't know if you've watched it at all, but it's hilariously
a little bit.
funny.
I couldn't quite get into it.
Yeah, so Chris has got a pretty big part in there. Tommy's part so far has been pretty minimal, but I did hear when they wrapped the last season, which was season 2.
Is it out yet?
Season 2 is, yeah, but they're working, I think, on season 3 now. And I heard on their Stuff Island podcast that Chris O'Connor told Tommy, he said, I can promise you one thing: this next season you're going to have a much bigger role, much bigger part in that show. So, you know, it was nice to meet them, because I like meeting people who have languished in obscurity for so long and are now enjoying success. They're still great guys. They haven't reached that level of fame where you can't get to them. Or, you know, Dave Portnoy's got. Had I wanted to meet Dave, I probably could have. But number one, Dave's a little bit of an asshole. Number two, it would have been a lot harder to get to Dave. He bets like $200,000-$400,000 a weekend on college football. And it was during the middle of that weekend was a big college football weekend. So he was in a VIP tent that they'd set up 3 or 4 televisions, and I'm sure he was, doing Dave stuff, and it probably would have been a lot harder to meet him. Now, I'm going to tell you who I didn't meet, and I kind of wish I would have, because I could have had a chance to talk to him. I talked to Chris O'Connor and Tommy Pope for probably 20 minutes just about podcasting, and they just moved down to Austin, Texas. Of course, you and I have spent some time in Austin, and I was talking to him about all that, and that was a lot of fun. But I could have met and spent some time with the guy that's playing Chad Powers. Have you seen this guy? He's all over television. There's a show. Have you heard of this show, Rand? Chad Powers. He's a football player. He was a walk-on. It's a series. And he goes to this school as a walk-on and ends up being the starting quarterback. And Kim was like, hey, you want to go over and meet this Chad Powers guy? And I'm like, nah, I don't even know who that is. Well, since then, every time I turn on the TV, there's something about Chad Powers. I think it might be an Apple show, kind of like Ted Lasso, but it's a football-oriented show. I don't know which medium it's on. I don't get starstruck very often. Occasionally I will, but meeting Tommy and Chris was just like me being around you and Rand. Mm-hmm. It's same thing. I probably would have been a little starstruck if I'd have met Dave Portnoy. I told Kim, because I thought we might run into him, I said, I'll tell you what you better not do, because Kim's a big hugger. Dave Portnoy don't put up with that. He doesn't hug. Like, he openly has conversations about, if you meet me, do not try to hug me. I'm not.
How many people were there?
So they had an afternoon session, 4,000 or 5,000 there. And then I think there was probably 3,000 people there that night.
Wow.
Yeah, 2,000 or 3,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. So this podcast today, guys, is just Bradley and I. I'm about ready to head back north. I'm about to go back to Huntsville, Alabama. And before I leave, we wanted to jump on here and do just a Bradley and Scott podcast, talk about our agencies. We try to do this once every 2 or 3 podcast sessions. We try to get in one podcast with just you and I and talk about our agencies and how we're doing, and pull our pants down for you and tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I guess I'll lead this time, because usually I have Bradley lead. Our agency, my agency's doing fine. We continue to be, and we have been for, I'm going to say, the better part of 3 years. We're stuck in neutral. We're Switzerland. We're not doing terrible. We're not doing great. We have grown a little bit this year. I don't have to tell you that we've kind of gone back into a soft market. We still have probably 5 to 10 clients a month that call us, even though their insurance has not gone up, or hell, it may have gone down a little bit.
My insurance went up $4.
Well, they'll just say, hey, I need you to shop my insurance. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's, I guess it's because we tend to forget that we have competitors in our area that are calling on people, or sending flyers, or sending emails, or sending postcards. Hey, we can save you. Da, 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 da. And then you've got the Allstates of the world, and I don't know why they don't ban this from the DOI in Alabama.
Those damn postcards.
Those damn letters that they get.
Your insurance could be negative $4 if you swap to Allstate.
Bradley, I got one the other day. This was last week. I got one from an Allstate. It has the Allstate agent, but it's coming from corporate. And it said, Dear Scott Howell, I could save you, blah, 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 on your insurance. And then down in the lower left right-hand corner, it said that my homeowner's insurance would be $787 a year. And that's just a lie. That's just a bold-faced, no possible way my insurance would be $787.
And I've thought about it. I've thought about doing a campaign similar to that, but making the quote realistic, or even an actual quote. But the problem with that is then mail is so expensive,
right,
that you're not going to get the hits that you would,
Right.
and it just, I don't know, it just feels like a scummy way, a bait and switch way of doing business. And what you should have done is called the Allstate agency to see what their pitch was. I'm always curious.
And I have Allstate, so I could run the quote myself.
I'm always, but I mean, like, they send the letters out, your insurance is $150, and they call the agency expecting a $150 quote. How does the representative at the Allstate agency untie that bow to let the customer down easy without it seeming like a total scam? You know what I mean?
Yeah, almost like the transition between this is what was on the letter.
Yeah.
Well, this is what it really is.
Yeah.
State Farm's bad to do that. I get about 1 or 2 State Farm letters a month that. Now, I will say, I think the last 2 or 3 State Farm letters I've gotten it didn't have a price on there. It's just, hey, this is your new local State Farm agent. And it's like them introducing themselves. It's not a number on there that, your home, we could insure your home for $620. My problem, the problem that I have in my agency is I need a jam up personal lines agent that's hungry, that knows what they're doing, and is aggressive and wants to sell and is willing to make the calls and do the things that you have to do to write $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month in new premium.
Mm-hmm.
We're up now, back up. I will say we're going the up. We were systematically every month losing business. And our total annual premium was dropping monthly by, we'd write 200,000 in a month, but we'd lose 250,000. And now it's going the other direction. And we're back up north of 12 million. I think we're up to maybe 12.3, 12.4, somewhere in that. We'll probably close the year at almost 13. I will tell you this, though, to all you agents out there. I know a lot of you have different niches and you do different things. With the capacity that's out there in property, especially for like, anything, a shopping center, multifamily, any property, commercial risk, it's a race to the bottom right now. We're overloaded with capacity, and so we're not losing business on that side of the house, on more of that commercial side of the house. We're staying about even.
But your competition is
it's more competitive, obviously. But then, like maybe an account that last year was a big commercial account for us that was $100,000. This year's coming back. Their quote's coming back at like $75,000 or $80,000.
Yeah.
So that's how it's not that we're losing it. It's just that the
Well, there's a lot of agencies out there. I'm not putting you in this bucket, but there's a lot of agencies out there that the last 3 years have rested on their laurels in a sense that all of their growth has come from rate increases.
Right.
And now that's not happening. And so some of your projections may be off. You know what I mean?
Right. So, yeah.
And it's good and bad. It's good that you kept the account and the customer's happy, but then at the same time, it's like.
Yeah, we just lost $30,000.
Yeah.
I'll say this, and I'm really pulling my pants down now. I'm showing both my moon and my moose. Kerry Wallace has been a blessing as our fractional CFO, but one thing I have realized about myself is money is a real trigger for me. Talking about money is a real trigger for me. And in terms of, give you an example. Carrie will send out an email to Clint and I, and she'll say, hey, we need to schedule our October financial management report meeting where we go over the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, the sales for that month. And I'm instantly thrown into a bad mood. And then, and I've told her this, and I've tried to tell her, I'm like, Carrie, it's not you. It's not anything to do with you, but I'm about to be 100,000 billion million % honest with you. I dread this call every single month because I think money is just a real trigger for me in terms of it's hard to talk about money when your agency's stuck in neutral or you're going backwards because it feels like every month is like Groundhog Day where you're talking about negative shit. You know, there's never a time I ever get on the phone with her. Again, not her fault. My fault where it's good news. It's always like, well, y'all have done a great job on getting your expenses down below industry standard, but Scott, y'all got to have more revenue. You need more revenue to grow. And it's almost like a broken record. And I'm going to be 1,000% with everybody listening to this right now. Like we skipped last month's meeting for some reason. Like she was at a fucking, sorry, excuse me. Cut that out, Johnny. She was at like a insurance thing and we couldn't meet and Clint was gone and I was gone. And then this month's was scheduled for yesterday. You remember that?
Yeah, that
she was
happening.
like, "Oh,
we should have done it live on the podcast."
well, man, I don't care. I mean, we can, but our listeners will hear the same thing I hear, which is, y'all have gotten expenses down, but your revenue, you need to do something to get this revenue up because y'all have kind of maxed out saving money.
Yeah.
And it's a revenue problem. It's not an expense problem, which indicates either a retention problem or a new sales problem. And I don't know. I want to hire Patrick McClure to come in as our fractional sales guy for 4 months. That's not cheap. Carrie and I have talked about it 2 or 3 times, and every time we talk about it, she's like, because the first thing Clint and I say is, let me tell you something. I ain't spending $12,000 with somebody for them to tell me what I already know.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to come in here and be the fractional sales guy to help our sales and figure out what we need to do, which we feel like we already know, don't leave after 4 months and you get your 12,000 and you just told us what we knew when we started.
Right.
And I will say this about Patrick, though. He said last time I talked to him, which was a couple months ago, he said, I'll tell you what, if you're not satisfied with what I do, I'll give you your money back.
There you go.
So I don't know. I just feel like we need to do that at some point. And I'll tell you somebody else I've thought about hiring to kind of help us with processes and procedures and getting everybody on the same page is Kelly Donahue. Mm-hmm. I like Kelly. I know she and I nearly got in a fist fight the first time we met. She was up at the Greenwich Group Conference in September. She did a great presentation up there. The problem I have with Kelly is if I was going to work with Kelly, I want to work with Kelly. Because, a lot of these people in the industry, you sign up to work with them, and then they put you with somebody else. Well, no, that ain't what I'm about. If you're going to work with me, you're going to work with Scott and our agency, Kelly, not somebody else, not the guy further down the trough. And I just don't know if she's got the time to do that. But I don't think she's cheap either. I think you're going to write a big check for that. But we need more processes. No, we don't. No, I'm sorry. We don't need a bunch more processes and procedures. We need to utilize the processes and procedures we have. Because my bunch, I am chock full of people that want processes and want procedures and want training, but then when you do it, they never look at it and they don't follow it and they don't do it. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. Clint used to be big on that. We need more processes and procedures. Damn, Clint, you don't do the damn ones I do. What do you want me to do, dude? But overall, our agency, I think, is in good shape. I love our team. We've got a good group of people. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I got I have a very seasoned, older team of everybody on my team, with the exception of maybe one person who's only got about 2 or 3 years experience. Everybody else has got like 10, 15, 20 years of experience. So it's they can do it in their sleep. Like they know their shit front to back, back to front. And so I don't have to worry as much about getting an E&O claim or anything like that, because they're real big on doing things the right way, and they've just been doing it so long that there's not many questions they don't know the answers to. You get a bunch of some bitches working for you that ain't never done it before. In year one of them being in insurance, they don't even know what they don't know. They don't know shit from shampoo. Hence why the Billy Wagners of the world take those people and train them daily for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And still, I guarantee you that's like drinking out of a water fountain.
Yeah.
I mean, a water hose, like a fire hose.
Yeah. We're similar in that. So we've consistently done about 300 to 500,000 in true new premium per month.
That's great.
For the last like 3 years.
That's great.
And you remember when we did that sales contest a couple of years ago, I told you, I said, we're going to do 350. That's, you know, a normal month for us is 350,000. That's not including reshops or renewals. And a good month is 500 to 600,000.
Right.
We've had a few months where we've done $1 million, but those are few and far in between.
Right.
And that's been great. We've been able the last few years to consistently grow doing that. Well, now the agency, we're at about 25, 26 million in premium, and our retention is somewhere between 90 to 93%, which your agency is going to get so big, you're going to lose. You're never, you know, when I see folks bragging about 98% retention like I used to, your agency is just not that big. Because it's almost impossible.
Yeah, I don't get that 98% retention. I just can't imagine that.
And so we're, you know, on a normal month, we're 90 to 92. But here's the thing. Let's just use 90. Okay, if I average 90% retention for the year, I'm losing 2.5 million.
Correct. I'm
writing 3.5. You're not really, you know what I mean?
Correct.
And so
there's a delta there.
So in about June of this year, I recognized, like, wait a minute, and I don't know that there's any other agencies in our area that are doing that much new business consistently. All of our reps say there isn't. But I recognized, okay, wait a minute. If we keep writing the same amount of business we're writing, eventually we're going to get to a neutral spot. Right. Where it's like, hey, you really can't. You're only writing what you're losing. You know what I mean? Or the opposite.
Sure,
you're losing more than you're writing, and so that's why I went to Billy Wagner's, and which we'll talk about in a later episode. But I have my sights set on, and this year. So 2 years ago, when I started working with Carrie, I mean, like every other agent, I had signed up for every tool under the sun, and my expenses were all out of whack. So I tell this sort of story. 2 years ago, Carrie and I set a budget for the year, and I had no intention of following it. It was just like your dad say, hey, stay out of trouble tonight.
Okay.
You know, last year, 2 years ago, we set a budget, so 2024, we set a budget for 2024, and I had the intention of following it, but things just go off the rails.
Yeah.
I didn't do a good enough job when we set the budget of projecting, okay, do I really think I'm going to spend no money on XYZ?
Right.
You know what I mean? And being realistic with it. This year, for 2025, I said, dang it, Carrie, we are setting a budget and we are sticking to it.
Yeah.
And so I told myself, and I told Carrie, 2025 for us is going to be a year for sticking to the budget, making what would be a normal profit for an agency of this size, so that we can reinvest. 2026 for us is going to be a year of organic growth. And so one thing I like to do, and Alex Ramosi talks about this, is, okay, what's the one thing that you could change? What's the one thing you could hyper focus on that would change everything.
Right.
And so for me, it's hyper focusing on our sales process. What are other agencies that are more successful than us doing? And let's do that. So everything I'm focused on now is, okay, the beginning of starting next year, how can we go from a good month being $500,000 to a normal month being $1 million?
Yeah. Right.
And we've got all the advantages in the world. We've got a ton of leads. We don't generate as many as Billy, but we generate a ton of leads. And so that's what's going on in our agency. Like everything's gearing up towards, how can we really put the pedal to the metal, invest in some growth, hire a few more salespeople, that sort of thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As hard as it is for me to get my people to call on leads, to call on win backs, where you not only got all their information, when their X date is.
100%.
So let's say their X date is November the 20th, or today's the 21st, November 21st. Today's the day that you ought to be calling those people back. One issue that I've had in my agency is I print out a win back report every month at the start of the month that adds like a month and a half of, and when I get that to each agent and say, hey, in 2024, you lost these accounts. How many of these people do you want to win back? Most of them say, we don't want that customer back. Well, to me, that's just proof that you're not writing good business on the front end.
Either that or it's an excuse. What I would say in that case, if you go to Clint and he says, I don't want that customer back, okay, I'm going to give them to such and such. And then see what the answer is.
Now some of them are legit. Like I'll go look at their claim history after they say that, and they'll have 5 freaking claims.
Sure. Yeah, there's always going to be some.
There's some of that.
We discovered that. So when you have a lead in Agency Zoom that you did not sell, you have 2 options. You can move it to Smart Cycle, which is X dating.
Correct.
Or you can mark it dead. We discovered that our people were being very generous with the people they were moving to dead.
Yeah.
And so we had a talk a couple of weeks ago, and I said, look, guys, my mindset is unless the customer tells you F you, don't ever call me again. And anything beyond that, everything should be Smart Cycled.
Right.
Well, what if it's the kind of house we don't want to insure? Okay, maybe they sold it and they bought a new house.
Yeah.
Or they had claims on their record. Maybe the claims fell off, because when we move stuff into Smart Cycle, it sends them that text 30 days out from the X date. It's like, hey, and since we've started doing that, we've seen an uptick in actual sales happening from win-backs because we took all of the dead leads that were marked dead and just moved them over to the win-back. But I've run into that too, and my mindset is maybe it was you.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the person they worked with, and we tend to, just as people, not just insurance people, but people in general, tend to hyper focus on the thing that we didn't like about somebody. You know what I mean? Oh, that's not our target customer. Well, maybe they were just having a bad day.
Right.
Sometimes some of the best customers are people that were once rude to you and now they feel bad. And so, you know what I mean?
So my question to you was, have you considered, and I think this might work better in commercial than personal lines, but you and I kind of have a very similar, not problem, but opportunity in that we have tons of leads both on the commercial side and the personal line side. And I have considered, and I'm asking you if you have considered, finding somebody that has a pleasant voice who is sales oriented to make just outbound. Hey, today's November 21st or October 21st. Your insurance renews or expires in 30 days. You were with us last year and you left. Can we quote you insurance again? Because it is very difficult. I have said this for years. To most salespeople, they've got all the busy work plus the stuff they are quoting, and they will find every single excuse in the world not to make 100 calls a day.
Yeah.
Now, you can't do it with like a VA most of the time, because if the VA's in Manila, in Alabama, I know in other parts of the country this would probably work, but in Alabama, you get somebody with like a not Alabama accent calling, they'll hang the damn phone up on you.
Have I ever told you about the VA I hired that could do an Alabama accent?
No.
Kenneth and I interviewed this VA.
What?
And she sounded like us. And I asked her, and I said, "Hey, what?
Did you hire her?
Have you had accent training?" What? She said, "Well, I'm actually a part-time stand-up comedian in the Philippines, and part of my act is I make fun of people from the South of America." And so I can do a Southern accent, and we hired her immediately.
You still have her?
No, we suspected a few weeks in that she was clocking in and not working. And so it was actually the day of the One City World Tour Austin. I told Kenneth, I said, "I don't have time to deal with this right now. Lock her out of her email and see how long it takes her to notice."
Yeah.
16 hours. So yeah, you're not working. So we'd let her go. But that was devastating. But that she could do a Southern accent like you would not believe. But yeah, I agree. We've had outbound. I've hired a few outbound dialers before. I for something like that, I love just hiring a receptionist that sounds great on the phone, that's maybe worked at a restaurant, taking to-go orders or something, and having them do that, because it's already a warm-ish relationship. You know what I mean? It's not flat-out cold calling. We've thought about that for sure.
Because it's so hard to get your people to stop what they're doing and time block.
Yeah.
10 to 11:30 and 1:32 to 4.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want your hours to be, to make those calls. Now, I will say, the person making those calls on the personal line side to Mr. and Miss Johnson, that person doesn't need to be very, how should I say this? That person can be just, "Hey, we'd like to quote your insurance again."
Yeah.
If you've got some niche and you're in the commercial space and they're calling on professional people that know their shit, or, pay a lot for insurance, you better have somebody doing that can at least hold their own in a conversation.
For sure.
Because that's not going to be just "Hey, can we quote your insurance?" That's going to be like a more in-depth conversation that somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're doing is going to be like, click.
Yeah.
No, you can't. Bye. Click.
So we want to talk about our 2 announcements here that we're doing.
Talk about them.
So we got 2 big announcements for you guys. Number 1, so Scott and I, we try to mix things up on this podcast, and we've always done I feel like we've always done a very good job of finding unique people in the industry that were doing something cool. And a lot of other podcasts, if somebody else is on a bunch of podcasts, they will just have that person on because they're on a bunch of other podcasts. Right. And we always try not to do that. And I've often said that if you want to be on this podcast, the way to not do that is to go on a bunch of other podcasts. And it's not to be disrespectful to you or anybody else, but you don't want people hearing the same people over and over. And so we've always done, I feel like, Scott, a really good job of finding unique people that may or may not be seen as a thought leader, but that were doing really interesting, unique things in their agency. So the first announcement, this is not the biggest announcement. The first announcement is that if you guys out there are doing something unique in your agency that you want to talk about, that you think other people will get value out of, and or if you know of someone, hey, Johnny down there down the street is doing something great that is unique or cool, or maybe you have an interesting story or a way that you grew your agency, or things were in shambles and you turned it around, or whatever. Anything you think will bring value to other agencies, shoot us an email. I feel like sometimes people are scared to raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I want to be on the podcast.
Right.
And I've been in those shoes before. I remember, when I was coming up through the ranks here in Mobile and learning and getting to know people, there was a guy here locally that had a podcast, and I wanted so bad to be on that podcast. and I was too scared, too proud to reach out and ask. And because I think people think that, and I know I thought this, that guy's going to be like, oh, this guy's so desperate. Like, we don't look at it that way. Like, if you reach out to me and say, hey, I want to be on the podcast, I think I can provide XYZ value, that to me is the equivalent of a customer sending me a referral.
Right.
That's the way that I look at that. Obviously, can't say yes to anybody, but we're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to be mean or anything like that. Just may, hey, yeah, this isn't a great fit. But if you fit in one of those categories, shoot me an email. It's Bradley@portalinsurance.com, and we might make that a little more official and actually have a form on the website eventually. But Bradley@portalinsurance.com. If you think you have something unique to offer, or you know of somebody that's doing something cool, like just as a matter of fact, so we interviewed a guy named Jeff Wingate on the podcast. It's coming out in a few weeks. He is the CEO of a top 100 agency, 250 employees, all organic, no M&A. I just reached out on Twitter. I posted on Twitter and said, hey, I'm looking for someone who is running a top 100 agency that does not do acquisitions. And there's exactly one agency on the top 100 list that doesn't do acquisitions. It's Jeff's agency. And so a person on Twitter saw that, sent me Jeff's email, and that's how it happened. So shoot me an email, Bradley@portalinsurance. And that does not include if you're a vendor, by the way. If you got something to sell, we can still have that conversation, but it's totally different.
Different deal.
Well, and I tell people too, like, we have vendors reach out to us all the time. And I always tell vendors, we have sponsors on this podcast. We call them partners, but they're sponsors. And I can't just have a vendor on because I'm warm and fuzzy about their service without there being some sort of business agreement, because in a way it is disrespectful to the sponsors and the partners. You know what I mean? So there's that. The second announcement, which is the bigger announcement, we need y'all's help, guys. So Scott and I have invested that 98% of our listeners come on, or I'd say 80% of our listeners come on the Apple Podcast app. About another 18% come on Spotify, and then there's a few scattered about, those of you guys that have weird phones or just straight weirdos that don't want to listen on Spotify.
Go to
Apple.
like Audible or somewhere.
We sort of missed the YouTube train, and it hit me about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I was listening to a podcast on YouTube. So I was technically watching the podcast, and it hit me about halfway through the podcast. And I said, I would not be listening to this if I couldn't see it. And so Scott and I have invested thousands of dollars into our YouTube channel, and the traction just isn't there compared to the podcast app. And I think it's because we are creatures of habit, and we know that we just like doing the things the way that we've always done them. And so some of you guys are listening on here would probably get a much better experience because you would feel like you're in the room with us when you're watching it on YouTube. So do us a favor and subscribe on YouTube. And what we're doing, speaking of being in the room with us, Scott and I are going to do a contest now through end of the year. Every single person that subscribes to our channel on YouTube through the end of the year, we are going to do a drawing where Scott and I will come to your agency sometime in the next 12 months. That'll be prearranged with you, and we can do whatever you want to do.
Yep.
We can do a day of consulting. I could give a couple presentations to you or your team. Scott could do the same. We could look at some of your processes. We could look at some of your technology. We could look at sales, whatever from that angle. We could do a day of content we'll probably podcast from your agency
Yep.
and have you on as a guest. Why not while we're there?
Sure.
Whatever you want it to be, I think it'll be a fun thing. So subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And I know some of you may be thinking, well, my YouTube name is like obscure, right? My name's John Smith, but my YouTube name is, I love getting my nails painted 32, or something weird. So what we're going to do is the winner of that contest is going to be announced on the podcast. So you'll have to listen for your handle on a podcast, which will probably happen January-ish of 26. So we're going to do a little contest for everybody that subscribes to YouTube. And
by the way, how do you track from when this episode comes out and they're listening and they go subscribe to YouTube, regardless of what their name is? How do you track? Does it show us somewhere when that person subscribed?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. So
and then we can back into who it is, no matter what their username is. If it's Roll Tide 1427 or
that person won't get picked, but typically
that person's out.
The way I do my contest, anytime I do a contest, is we draw 5 names. The first person has so much time to claim it, and then we go to the second one,
right?
Et cetera, et cetera. But if you want Scott and Bradley to show up to your office and
love
let's
that
just
so
hang
much.
out for a day.
I love showing up to people's offices and just hanging out for a little while and
like
talking
Aaron
insurance.
Gordon when they're not there.
Well, that was a little different. Boy, that woman wasn't going to let me on that elevator to go up to his office.
They put me through the ringer when I went there too, and Aaron was there. He wasn't with me, but he was up in his office. And you thought I would be getting on an airplane. You thought I was getting on Air Force One trying to get up in that building.
Did not help that the day before I tried to get to his office.
It's 9/11.
No, Charlie Kirk.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that didn't help.
That did not help. Now, Bradley, different subject, and then we got to go because I got to head north. So the last week, I've heard you say this, and I've heard some other people say this, and I had somebody in a performance review last week mention this. You and a lot of people listening to this right now are anti-phone tree.
Yes.
Understood?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the way I've got my offices set up with I guess you could call this a phone tree. I want you to hear this and you tell me what or if you would change something about this. Are you ready? Here it comes. And I want the listeners to hear this because maybe they've got a better mousetrap. But I want you to hear I got to turn it off airplane mode. Sorry. I want you to listen to this. 1, 2, 5, 6, 4, 4, 4. All right. Here it comes.
This call may be recorded for training and quality purposes. Thank you for calling I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, a full-service, independent insurance agency. Please listen carefully to the following menu options. Press 1 if you're calling from a bank or lender and need proof of insurance.
That goes to a VA.
Press 2 if you're an I Protect client and need policy assistance, such as making payments, claims, ID cards, billing questions, or anything related to servicing your insurance policy. Press 3 to get a quote on insurance.
So they listen to that. Of course, if you're a repeat caller, you just press 2.
Right.
Or 0 and it goes to somebody. And then a real person answers the phone.
Yeah.
Is that what you call a phone tree?
Yes. So here's what I'll say about the phone tree. There was a time, if you remember Hanley, when he was at trustedchoice.com, they did a study where they studied thousands of agencies that used phone trees and those that didn't. And I don't remember the exact statistics, and I would call him and get him on here right now, but you'll never get to leave to go home. I'm joking, Hanley. But there was some strong evidence that phone tree was not the way to go. Here's what I will say. The way the world is going, I don't think it hurts you because people expect it. You know what I mean?
And it's such a short.
It is pretty short.
It's But and you're there.
Yeah.
Somebody's picking up the phone.
Yeah, it is pretty short.
How would you do? Would you just pay somebody as a receptionist to sit there and just transfer calls all day?
So here's what I would say. I don't think there's anything wrong with using a phone tree because it's table stakes. What I will say though is I think people still appreciate somebody answering the phone. That's what I'll say. You know what I mean? I don't think it hurts you to have the phone tree, but I think it helps you to have a live person that answers the phone. Here's the catch, though.
But
and I'll tell you
that when you press that button,
somebody answers it.
Somebody's answering the phone.
Yeah, you're just routing. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, what I would do is maybe change the order based on what you want the person to do. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
press one if you're a client.
I'm assuming there might be a reason you have the banking thing first.
We get a lot of banking requests.
And they're experts at getting through the phone tree. And what you don't want is you don't want somebody just pressing one every single time just to get a person.
And that's what would happen if I put...
Totally negates the phone tree.
If you're an iProtect client, press one, they're just going to press one.
Yeah, so that's why you have... Yeah, so I would probably add in the... Are you on Lightspeed?
Yeah.
I would probably add in the 800 number thing that we did. So what we did, guys, I talked about this on an episode you're going to hear in a few weeks, is anytime a number calls our office and the number they are calling from is an 800, 866, 888, the list is like 15 area codes long, it is automatically routed to my team that handles the mortgage company stuff because 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. And so our team doesn't even field those calls. So what you could do is you could just have that happen and you completely miss, you know what I'm saying? You don't even have to have that option on there because without doing that, if you're an iProtect client first, they're going to hit one.
Well, by doing that, then I can just do away with that.
Yeah, you can
phone tree.
If you want a quote, click here. If you need service,
no, I'm saying
you could, yeah.
Just let whoever answers it first answers it.
So we came really close to doing a phone tree.
But you're saying, is it I can get with Lightspeed and say any call that starts with 800, 844, or 866, it goes.
Kenneth can probably show you how to do it. I think he did it himself, but
because that would eliminate my phone tree. We only did that.
Because the mortgage calls.
The freaking mortgage calls, man. I mean, especially at the beginning of the year when the mortgage is reset.
Yeah.
Dude, you're getting like so many calls.
We came really close to doing a phone tree because of that. And my attitude was, I don't want to do this, but if we have to, because our team was getting bombarded, well, then I think it was either Kenneth or Megan had that idea. And I was like, that is the most brilliant idea I've ever heard. And so,
because you just eliminated my phone tree.
Lightspeed was able to do that. The other thing we did, Scott, is similar to how it's you talking on there. So when you call our office, actually, let me just do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be really embarrassed if it doesn't work. So our core portal customers, we train them to text us. So like prior to our first big acquisition.
What do you mean by train? Like at the point of sale?
Correct. If you need something, you can text us. And prior to our first big acquisition, the volume of inbound phone calls we got compared to another agency of our size, we were like 20% of them because everybody texted. And I even remember you asking me like a year ago, why don't your damn phones ring? Because everybody texts, right? So with these acquisitions, though, these people are trained to call and come in person. So we wanted to conspire a plan to get it so that we could convince people to text us. So this is what we did. So it's not a phone tree. So instead of you calling and the phone ringing or music playing, we hired a voice actor. So it's actually ringing when this person, whereas with your phone tree, it's not ringing when you're talking on there. Okay? Let me play this real quick.
Your call may be monitored or recorded for training and quality purposes.
Thanks for calling Portal Insurance. We know your time is valuable. If it's
Thank you for calling.
She answered. But what that guy is about to say is We know your time is valuable. If you would like, you could actually hang up and text us at this number. And that has decreased call volume significantly because that's what people want to do. They don't want to sit there on the phone. They want to just
we get.
they just want
I
to
bet
text
we
you.
get 200 texts today.
Yeah. So that is decreased.
Because we text back and forth to people all day long.
That has decreased the volume. Kenneth said that they noticed a difference immediately when we did that. So we did those two things instead of doing a phone tree.
So in that case where that voice actor said what you just said, did they just hang up and text? Is that what they do?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So it's to say, hey, because so many people are calling us, and the thing they're calling us about, and they know this too, it's not like the end of the world. They got to get this handled right now.
Right.
And so the idea is only the issues that are the building's on fire, we need to get this handled right now, make it all the way to that girl answering the phone.
I'm texting our 444, which is our main office number right now, a test to see, I think.
But I'll tell you, in terms of phone trees, that's one of the better ones I've heard. It's very simple. It's three things. It's you on there, so your people know that that's you. You know, this isn't some robot. You're not sending me to a call center, et cetera, et cetera. So that's good.
So I just texted our main number and said, testing, this is Scott Howell. Text back, please. I'm trying to see, I think we text back and forth through this 2041 number through Lightspeed as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just testing it to see. Let's see if anybody texts me back or whether it's another. No, I think that's right. All right. So we're going to do away with the phone tree. We're going to set it up to where any 800 numbers go straight to our VA that handles banking stuff. And then that she'll just have to, if it's a insurance carrier calling, maybe it's an underwriter calling from an 866 number because that happens.
Yeah.
Or claims rep or whatever. They're trying to talk to an agent. She'll just have to funnel that call back to them.
Yeah. No different than.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
easy. You know
easy.
what was hilarious?
And that does away with my phone tree.
You know what was hilarious though? The day that we did that with the 800 number thing, I was having problems getting into my ASI commission statements with Progressive.
Mm.
And I was on the phone with them, and they had to get me to prove I was who I said I was. And they said, we're going to call you, and we need you to answer, and it needs to be the same person. They're going to call the agency number on the deck page. There you go. You got to text back. So this girl calls me, and I forgot that we did that, so it routes it to my mortgage team. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. And I look like a total fraud. And I'm like, no, it's just this thing we did. And we ended up getting it worked out. But it was funny, like immediate, because I'm like, I'm not getting any phone calls from 800 numbers immediately within an hour.
You got to call.
I'm like, oh crap, this is, but.
So last question of the day, and then I'm going to let you go. And because I want to help these agents. I wrote this question down 2 weeks ago, sitting in my car in Huntsville, Alabama, at a red light. I was thinking about Bradley,
Was
which
this when you almost killed the two marketing reps?
No. This is another day. I usually think about you in the shower, but on this day, I was actually sitting in front of the hospital in 4-lane traffic at a red light, and I wrote this question down to ask you on the podcast. The question is, let me find it. The question is, hold on. Here we go. It was, what is your incoming sales lead process? I also wrote down, Dave Chappelle said this, if we don't do dope shit don't happen. Wrote that down.
So
here it is. What is your sales incoming lead process?
In terms,
And I think we've talked about this week a little bit.
So we are completely revamping that right now. So I can't necessarily answer it.
Is that revamping coming from your trip down to see Billy?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way it works now is if we get an inbound lead that is a true inbound lead that, let's say, hits the website, emails me, and or Google, something like that. That goes to our inside salesperson who handles all the inbound stuff. If it's true inbound, if it's personal lines, if it's commercial, or it is something that may be personal lines, but it's a little complicated, that's going to go to Natasha. And then she's the sales manager. And what she does is she either handles it herself or she delegates it out to someone based on their specialty.
Right.
So if it's transportation, she's going to send that to one person. If it's a home on Dolphin Island, which can be really hairy, she's going to send it to somebody. Can you even
ride a house?
Oh, yeah. We ride a bunch of Dolphin Island.
Yeah.
But that's the process now. It's not very scientific. You know what I mean? It's not very written out, and that's what we are currently revamping how we're going to handle that. So ask me that question again in 6 months.
Okay. I can do that.
Yep.
Biggest takeaway from your trip to Billy Wagner's? Offices. Writes $1 million a month.
Their progression for new employees. You start in this role, you move your way. It's very mapped out. Here's the roadmap for success. And we had sort of started doing that because about a year ago I said, hey, I'm not going to hire any new producers ever again straight into a producer role unless they are already a bona fide producer at another agency.
Right.
We're going to start everybody else in inside
What would you
sales.
do? What would you do in that situation though? If you so different because Billy doesn't hire anybody
with experience.
But if you did hire somebody with experience, would you still put them through that progression?
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either because they're going to be like, what? I ain't going back to.
Yeah. But it's, we had 2 steps. It's like inside sales, then producer. Billy has 6 steps. You start here, then you go here, then you go here, then you go here, then you go here. And
over 12 weeks.
Over several years.
Yeah.
That was very eye-opening to me. So that was probably the biggest takeaway and the biggest thing that was like a pattern break, because I was thinking, I have got this all figured out, inside sales producer, when it's like, no, you actually start client concierge, junior producer, which is his version of inside sales, agent level 1, agent level 2, agent level 3, then you're a producer. And it's all drawn out and very detailed. I'll send you all my notes from there.
And how long is that? Is the client? The title of that is client concierge, and basically they're just practicing quoting over and over and over and over again. For how long?
The phone.
A year?
He said it could be as long. That part, he said it could be as long or as short as you want it to be. So there was a guy there who actually had started there a couple months before that had already made it to junior producer because he did such a good job. Where you get, I think, stuck in the mud is between like agent 1, 2, and 3. There's some things you have to hit that are going to take you some time to get there. You know what I mean?
So I'm going to say 2 things to that. I accidentally did that with a new girl who's now been with us for about a year. She applies for a position with me. Everybody liked her. We agreed we were going to hire her. I think she put a little jam on the bread relative to how long she had been with State Farm and how much she knew about insurance. And it took me listening to some calls when we put her into the producer role to start. It took me 6 weeks of listening to a few calls, and I said, oh, this girl don't know shit about insurance. Like the shit she's saying on the phone. There would be times when she'd get on the phone with somebody to go over a quote she'd done for them. There'd be 45 seconds of dead air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't do that. If you have to edit your phone calls to edit the dead air out, it's not good.
So here's what I did. Called her up, got on a Google Hangout call with her and some of the other agents in my office, and I said, congratulations. You are no longer a producer at I Protect Insurance. That's the good news. The more good news is I am going to move you over, didn't call it client concierge, to more of an account manager role for right now. And I want you to quote 2,000 pieces of business.
Yeah.
It's that insurance concierge role. She's now been doing that for most of 2025, so I'd say close to a year, and has learned so much in that year. The other thing I was going to say, and I think she's probably 6 months away from being ready to be level 1 agent. But the other thing I was going to say, the first time I heard of that strategy was at Jag Insurance back 5 or 6 years ago.
They called it technical assistant. Is what they called it.
When you came into Jag, I don't know how they're doing it today. When you came into Jag Insurance, because they hired a lot of people without insurance experience, buddy, the first 2 years you were there, you were basically an account manager. Or, you were technical advisor kind of role where you're learning insurance, you're doing quotes, you're working on account manager type stuff to learn insurance. And you didn't get hired out of the gate to be an agent.
Yeah.
They just didn't do that. So I'm interested in, I think that's the right way to do it for people without insurance experience, because I have always said, if you pass your insurance license and you come from either another industry or school or whatever, 24 months, it takes you 24 months. I don't know what happens at 24 months, but at 24 months, you kind of feel like the training wheels can come off and you can ride the bicycle. Now, here's the last thing I'm going to say about this podcast. Going back to where we started and me talking about sales. I know for everybody watching this right now on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple, iTunes, everything else, I'm about to say something that's going to sound really, really hokey. And I can't put into words why it works. But about 8 weeks ago, I started getting back into sales and making calls and doing marketing drops and calling on businesses and trying to work mid-market accounts. Some of them were a little smaller than that. But I started doing all this and doing sales activities during the week. I can't explain this, but I am telling you, it is the God's honest gospel truth. As soon as Scott started making calls and going out and seeing businesses and getting back into what I call more of a sales mindset than an agency owner mindset, phones blew up.
Really?
We started writing, and I don't know if that was just osmosis. I don't know if it was my team recognized that I was doing that, so they started doing it more. But whatever happened, however hokey this sounds, when I got back into a sales mindset, our agency's phone started ringing with people wanting quotes.
There you go.
Business, personal lines. I say all that to say this. I started this podcast talking about revenue and Kerry Wallace and you got to have more revenue. And then Bradley said something that really resonated with me from Alex Hermosa. Focus on one thing. If you've got to have revenue, you're going to have to take off all the other hats you're wearing, possibly, depending on your agency size. And you're going to have to put that sales hat back on and get that revenue. That the coal's got to go into the engine that drives the train, that powers the train. And the only way I know to do that is if you don't have the money or you just can't find somebody in your area that's qualified to be that person, or maybe you just don't want to. Like I have a little bit of PTSD after some of the people I've hired.
Oh, me too.
You know what I'm saying? Like I just expect somebody's going to come in and try to screw my eyeballs out of my head when I hire them. The easiest thing to do to get that coal, loaded up in the oven to drive that train is, by God, you start making phone calls and you start sending thank you letters.
You're leading
and you
by example.
Yeah. There's some of that. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. I can't explain it. I don't know why that happened. I hadn't just blown the doors off of it yet. I've had to, because of some things I'm involved in that I can't talk about on the podcast. I've over the last 4 weeks, I've had to kind of take off that hat and put on my legal hat. You know what I'm talking about? So that's kind of taken some time away from doing that, but I'm about to get back on it again. But man, that 3 or 4 weeks when I was jamming every week, just sales, marketing drops, calling people, calling businesses, it's like it just turned a light switch on in our agency. And we just, every day I'd call people and they'd be like, dude, you're not going to believe this. I sold $35,000, $40,000 worth of insurance today. It's the strangest thing. We had done that in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Guys, I'm going to end this thing. I got to head north. As I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out in the big bad world. Make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband, for your kids' college fund, for your parents and in-laws that are struggling out there. Go make money for them. Rand, I want to say thank you to you. I should have said it earlier in this episode. Thank you for sitting in here for 2 days. I know it's like watching paint dry on a wall, listening to us talk about insurance. You know, I tell people all the time, I could be world famous if Bradley and I had a podcast to reach the masses instead of a very, very niche market in insurance. And maybe one day Bradley is going to open up his little earballs and let me have a Patreon. And you people can pay $19.99 a month to hear the real. If you think this is the real, imagine me on a Patreon and you and Bradley, you look at me and you go, Scott, you can say whatever you want. Anything. Would you pay $19.99 a month to hear me say whatever the hell I wanted to say?
I would.
God, that's going to be the day when that happens.
I keep a running list every time we podcast of stuff Scott says that I have to take out.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If I did a Patreon, if you let me do a Patreon, it was like an IGP Patreon, and you let me say whatever I wanted, could somebody pay to get on? Let's say they pay the $19.99. They get on the first episode. I say something just completely wild ass crazy shit. Could they sue me, or
I'm sure.
Could I?
Yeah, definitely.
So I still can't really cut loose.
No, you really can't.
I love you.
Love you too.
Guys, you're listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family. We'll see you back real soon. Take care.